Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're live. That's
Oh,
that's
we're
pretty
live. Oh,
cool.
there we go.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Awesome. So interesting. Okay, so Captain Gregg. I'm gonna have to call you that from now on. That's awesome. So what? Tell me the story about that, because you said that you retired out of that, or you what exactly was the deal with that?
Sure. I was a boat captain in Chicago for probably 20 years. Passenger vessels, tour boats, charters, and did that. The boats were about 300-400 passengers, and did that for years, and then retired from doing that, and did some marina management. And then pandemic hit, things kind of changed, um, and then I was watching the media, and I always was into current events and politics, um, but I was watching the media and finding out that you know they actually weren't telling you the whole story. So uh,
Yeah.
after doing research and you know, you know, during the pandemic, I had some free time to dive into some of the science behind the pandemic and the vaccines and all that. And the I decided to write, so uh, am writing. So I'm a boat captain turned citizen journalist. so uh,
Okay.
and now I publish my articles are published in Headline USA .com, and it's down here in the United States. Well, it's everywhere. It's on the webs. so it it's a global publication, so anybody with internet can pick it up. But I've had probably over 50 stories published so far on there,
Whoa.
and I tend to write and do investigative reports on subjects that I'm interested in.
Okay.
So it's kind of a wide range of topics. I did a lot of writing for the convoy in Canada, and that was just amazing to watch. And I'm extremely jealous because you actually got to experience it on the ground, and that I think is something that I'm pretty sure you'll never forget.
Oh, I'll never forget that. That's for sure. I don't know if you should be jealous though, because I definitely want to be. Oh my God, I've contemplated moving to the States so many times during this. Like, you have no idea. I was just thinking to myself so many times, man, Florida is looking real good right now. Like, if I could just sneak across the border, just smuggle myself over, that would be great. But I don't know. I'll just work with what I got up here. Actually, I had no idea that it would end the way it did. Did you predict that at any point in time?
um, I knew it was going to end, unfortunately, at some point, but I did not think that there was enough um, political uh, will in Canada to forcefully remove peaceful truckers. It's a sight that I think, as Americans down here, we saw through all of the live streaming, and, uh, the live streaming was amazing, including your channel. Um,
Appreciate that.
and we saw it down here, just a group of truckers and supporters that it seemed like they were just full of love, and it was unedited video, and there was really no commentary, with it, no bias, and seeing that, and then seeing all the support that every weekend it seemed like it was getting bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
and I didn't think that there was going to be a sort of military takedown of the convoy in the way it happened, and seeing windows broken and truckers dragged out of trucks is disturbing, and it should be disturbing for any human because these are blue class, uh, hardworking people. A lot of them independent businessmen and women, and to be treated that way when you have that much of a support. it's it's disturbing. And of course, when your prime minister, you know,
Our
basically,
lovely prime
yeah,
minister.
your prime minister, basically, evoked martial law. Um, that was amazing. And what's even more amazing is the news media down here. Nothing. You turn on, any channel, and you really didn't hear a peep about it. And I mean, Canada's not like it's 5,000 miles away. I mean, I mean, I could probably drive up to you now and be there in 8 hours. So it's not, but
Wow.
they won't let me cross the border. But
No, they won't let me cross the
yeah,
border either. So I think we
so
both know why.
yeah, yeah. So I think that it's I'm hopefully I think that a lot of people were watching from the United States.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, there were a lot of people in Canada involved, and I think the truckers they went to end mandates, COVID vaccine passports, and stand up for freedom. Um, they ended up having their freedom crushed, but I think in the long run of it, they actually created more of a movement. Um, and I think that there's more energy now than there was when they started, even though it ended the way it did. I
Yeah.
see, there's already talk of, other, of them getting, the band back together, if you will, at some point in time. Um, and I just think that, that I think it created a movement, a freedom movement. That started with vaccine passports, but mandates. But then I think it's created more of a freedom movement, not only Canada, all
Yeah.
across the globe.
Absolutely, man. And it was crazy too because at one point I was standing in the middle of the intersection there. I believe it was Wellington and Metcalf. I can't be sure, but it's where like the big stage was and everything. And one night, Fox News came in. They showed everybody like how many people were live on their show at once, and it blew everyone out of the water. It was just like for any big streamer who was down there, like 20,000 would be like ridiculous, right? But these Fox News people, it just goes to show that how many people were interested in this. 25 million people were watching right there in that given second. I was just blown away by that. But that brings me to a greater point here because I know you mentioned that you did some things for Fox News as well. And I believe you were kind of connected to the whole Zot situation with how he got introduced to them. So explain what's going on there, Greg. That would be great.
Yes, well, I can't get into a lot of detail, but it's it's I have no
Top
affiliation.
secret.
Yeah, I have no affiliation with Fox News or Tucker Carlson, and where he gets his material and story ideas, one can only surmise. But the I was the first one. I can say that because I have a published date on my story. But I was the first one to publish a story involving Zot and live streamers and the
Okay.
impact that they were having on getting the truth out on this live event compared to the corporate legacy media. And that same evening, they picked up the story, and Tucker Carlson's producers used some of the Zot's footage. Unfortunately, they never got him on the show. I mean, they should have. You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
they should have. But they only have like 30, 60 seconds for segments. So, but it would have been nice to get Zod on there. But Tucker Carlson used a lot of his footage, and he did mention his name twice. So,
Right.
but you know, in the United States, and I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the United States, the media sort of has echo chambers, and especially on the if you want to say conservative side, or if that side, it's also on the liberal side. Um, there's a vast echo chamber of news. So one outlet publishes something, somebody else picks it up, rewords it, tweaks it, and they publish it in their publication. So a lot of times you're getting you know regurgitated news. That's sort of the way it works down here. Somebody breaks the story and people pick it up, and it's just filtered through all the other conservative outlets down here. Watching the Canadian press, it seems like you don't really have much of a much of a diverse opinion up there on mainstream media.
No, not exactly. I mean, no matter how many people I talk to down there, whether they be reporters or whether they be, just concerned citizens, the whole consensus was that we've lost the investigative journalist aspect of things. And I was just kind of, at the beginning, I thought, okay, well, it's going to be interesting for me to just head down there and, whip out my camera and just, broadcast for myself, sort of as like a home video thing. And then it became this like, huge snowball effect and gaining subscribers, and people started, showing a lot of interest in my journey. And I thought that that was really interesting that I had to go out there and live stream that, as opposed to, how big of a deal would it have been if CBC is like, all right, Jimmy, you're going to go out there. We're going to put you in a fancy hotel and you're going to live stream every day from such and such time. I like, that would have been a brilliant thing to do. But of course, they're not going to do that because it doesn't fit their narrative and their agenda, right? So, what are you going to do?
Well, I think, what's kind of weird is I never thought I'd be, writing published news articles.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of like people like us, I think, have filled the void of fake news. And, I know like everything, I write and, want to get published. I do a lot of research into it to make sure it's accurate and, not, just, contributing to the false narrative. Um, and people like you, me, and all of the live streamers, I think are extremely important as we move forward, to actually get real news out there to people. um, you cannot turn on the mainstream media and get an accurate story that is in depth, that you really know what is going on. And you
Yeah.
know the great thing about the Canadian trucker event was that it was able to be live streamed, and the events were able to be captured in real time. Yourself, what was going on. You didn't need talking heads to tell you, blah 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 blah. You could see it, So, and I'll say, I watched, I watched way too much live stream coverage, but I was writing stories on it, so I had a reason. I wasn't just, sitting home watching.
Justified.
So, so I was, doing research, but also it was captivating. Honestly, it was actually, talk about reality TV. This was actually reality, and it was, you'd be
Yes.
walking down the street, and all of a sudden, you'd be interviewing somebody that is you never even thought would be there. And the interesting stories they had, and none of it is scripted, and it's just amazing TV. And so it I think as we move forward, to cover more live events, I think that hopefully there'll be a lot more live streamers involved, in that situation. I know some live streamers in Canada have covered some of the protests, with the Ukrainian situation. I think it was Travel Fund 69 was in Toronto, and
Yeah.
they had a big Ukrainian protest. Very quiet protest, but seemed like a lot of good people. And then he was up there for another. It was like a smaller event, kind of a Freedom Convoy brief event. But
Yeah, it was the day before that. I remember watching. Yeah.
yep.
So,
So you know, more people like that continue that type of live feed. I think is great. I'm a little disappointed. In the United States, we have a Freedom Convoy of our own going on at the moment, and it's really not being covered. There really are no live streamers. Now I don't know, exactly how big it is. I know it's called the People's Convoy, and it's coming from California to Washington D.C. area.
right.
And then there was a Northeast branch of it, which left today from Maine, which I was going to go and cover, but as I was backing out of my driveway, my muffler fell off, so I never didn't quite make it. So had a little problem on that one. But so they left at 12 o'clock from Maine, and they're going to join the Maine convoy. Well, not the Maine convoy. The Maine,
The
the
main
Maine. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
the state of Maine. That convoy is going to join the People's Convoy coming from California, and they're going to meet up in D.C. somewhere and do something. Not really sure what. So,
Okay,
but
so that's
yeah,
another thing that I find very interesting, and I want to get your opinion on this, Greg. So, do you think that the People's Convoy is going to be having any sort of success whatsoever?
yeah, that's a great question. The lack of media coverage, it's it'd be kind of hard. I mean, they could be doing an amazing thing going on, and if there's nobody covering it, I don't know. I mean, you're not going to get the mainstream media to cover it, obviously, because especially now, they're competing with the news cycle with you know Ukraine and nuclear weapons, and so
Yeah.
it's a little tough to get your story out, at the moment in any type of media with a war going on in Europe. So it was bad timing, obviously, but they there was one commentator. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Bill O'Reilly, um, who was used to be on Fox.
Okay.
And actually, Tucker Carlson took his time slot, but
Oh.
he got left. He rated his show, and then he left somehow.
He left.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
funny.
I don't think he wanted to leave. I'll just leave it like that. But he suggested, and it actually was a pretty good idea, that the convoy should in the United States go and meet up, in D.C. maybe, but then continue down and end up, going to the southern border where there's a huge issue in the United States. So that actually would kind of make you know good sense if they went to Texas and just lined up across the border. I mean, that would be great to cover, but I don't think they're going down there.
Interesting. Because for me, I'm just thinking, okay, well, this movement in Canada has inspired, you know, trucker convoys for the rest of the world, right? But now that it got squashed by the government and so severely too, like all the trucks are towed, like some of the truckers didn't even get their trucks back yet, like bank accounts frozen, all this stuff. I'm just thinking to myself, okay, well, if that happened, what's to stop, the Brandon and his administration here from just putting up all kinds of roadblocks, towing the people, getting the National Guard out there? Like I heard from some people that the National Guard is already there waiting for them. So I'm like, is this going to even last a day? Like, what's the purpose of this convoy? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I was actually talking to a trucker who was organizing the Northeast convoy part of it,
Okay,
and he said there's a lot of truckers that are hesitant to get involved at the moment.
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
they support the cause, and at some point, I'll give you. We should have him on at some point. He's a uh, great guy for a background of the trucking industry in general, and told me a lot of things about what's going on in the industry as a whole. So it kind of gives you a perspective as to why uh, the truckers, are kind of agitated. There's the regulations. There's a lot of things going on that people don't know about because it's not covered. That is kind of hurting their industry. Besides, vaccine mandates. Um, but he said there's a lot of people afraid to get involved. They have a lot of support. Um, he doesn't know how big it's going to get. I was looking at some video that he took and he posted on the Facebook page of the convoy. Um, on the send off, it was a little rally in Kennebunk, Maine, and it looked like they had a decent crowd, for you know, for an afternoon during the week, and it's Maine. I don't know how many trucks are involved. Um, I tried. They're supposed to go through, Massachusetts, and meet the rest of the convoy down in Connecticut and New York. But you know, it, I'll say this as a fact. I mean, it's not going to be the same as what you had in Canada at all. It just won't be the same because, uh, like I said, the event that you had in Ottawa, I think, is a once in a lifetime event. I have never seen anything like that before. Any type of protest that turned into sort of a movement right before your eyes, and it was just growing in population, um, all kinds of people. And the fact that it was like stationary, and it looked like there were little communities involved with sections of the convoy, and they were barbecuing. They had a pig roast. They had,
It
I
was
mean, it's like,
crazy. Yeah.
you will never see that in the United States, because you think Canadian policing is tough in the United States. Yeah, okay. As soon as you put out your charcoal grill, they'll be like clamping down on you. So that unfortunately, because it looked like it would be a great event to have. It Unless you like rent out a festival grounds, and this is what I'm sort of thinking they're going to end up doing, or they have in the works. Um, I think that there has to be some sort of private land that they are um, have permission to use. So
Oh.
once this convoy meets, I think they're going to go there, and then maybe stay there for a while, because uh, if they just drive down and drive back, I mean that's not going to be. I mean, so I'm thinking they hopefully, and maybe it's wishful thinking, because I think it'd be a great story. If they had some private land that they were, able to use, set up the trucks, set up, their tents, and then, put on a similar, maybe a, freedom festival for a weekend, and then get the word out. That would be, impactful, I think. But so I think that might be the end goal to it. The reports that came out early on about, the convoys going to DC, and they're gonna clog up the streets, and park in front of the White House, and it was all fake fake news. That was never the point of the convoy. They knew they could never even get into Washington D.C. So it's like, it
What?
that was never on the agenda for them to even go into Washington D.C.
Really?
Yeah,
What? Okay, because so that was entirely unique than what we had here in Canada. It was right in front of the Parliament. So
yeah.
if you're
Mhm.
saying that they're not going to get in front of the White House, then I guess they're going to have to rent out some sort of ground, or they're going to have to, make some connections there, and go on a farm field or stuff. So then, how really effective can it be? Because you gotta measure here. The effectiveness of a protest kind of has to be on like a little balancing beam here, where it's like it's disruptive, but it's not too disruptive where it's going to be, abusing the movement. So, man, I'm not really sure exactly, because I thought what a genius move would be is if they said, let's go to DC, let's protest there, and then because the National Guard or whatever is going to be waiting for them there, they're going to go to New York instead, and clog up the streets there. Because do you think that would be a possible move at all for the convoy? Not at all.
No, they it, especially seeing what happened in Canada, and you know if you block any type of traffic, it seems like at this point in time you're become a major threat to the democracy. So if you go into
Of course.
you know if you like now, traffic doesn't move, like I lived in Chicago for like years, and the traffic doesn't move at all. I mean, it takes you like an hour to go like 5 miles, but that's a whole different story. But if
Okay.
if there are peaceful protest trucks going in, I don't see them really blocking any traffic, honestly. I just don't think that there's an appetite for it, for any of the law enforcement down here in the United States. Um, I don't see that even being allowed. So
Wow.
yeah, they're not. So it's a tough situation. I mean, you can't get into like Washington D.C. with a peaceful convoy like that, um, which is amazing in a free country. But last night they had it was President Biden's State of the Union, and the Democrats seem big on putting up a lot of fences. So they had fences everywhere, checkpoints, and it's like it's a ghost town. So you can't even get in, to the Capitol or to the White House. And so a convoy of any type of size is, they even said from the get go that they were going to go, near the Beltway, but not into DC. So I think, like I said, I think they might have found something somewhere private to go on a private piece of land. Obviously, it doesn't have the same impact as being in front of, the Parliament in Ottawa, which is, the seat of power. So um, yeah, it's not going to have the same impact. And I think that's why some people have suggested if they went to the border, because there's a huge crisis, going on the border with drug trafficking, with the
Oh,
immigration.
absolutely.
I mean, so if
Yeah.
they went to the border, they might have got some sort of better press at it. But it's probably a long haul going from California to Texas and then Northeast going down there. I don't know, but I think they're stopping somewhere and they're doing something. So we'll have to see. But there was a lot of fake stories out there about them trying to tie up Joe Biden's State of the Union address. That was never one of their issues. I mean, they never were going to do that. Um, and I mean, they were saying they were doing that, and they just left California. It's like it takes them takes them a week to get there. It's like then it's not going to happen. But it's not going to be the same, obviously, and in a way, I mean, like I said, you can never recreate what happened, in Ottawa.
I'm starting to believe that now more and more because I thought that this was just the beginning and that they would be doing this everywhere. But it seems like we got sort of the first stab at it, where people are, or the police force in particular, are unfamiliar how to deal with this. Because I was just walking around on the street, and hey man, you want a burrito? Like it was just all these cookouts and all this, and like the police, I think, were just like hands off, because I don't even know how to deal with this. Like I've never seen such a thing before. So I think now that that has failed, well, some people are going to be mad at me that I say it failed, but for the most part, it's over. I think we can all agree on that. And I think that all of these other leaders now, like Joe Biden, and the leaders in Brazil and Australia, and even in France, though, where all the convoys are going on right now, are going to be emboldened by this. Okay, here's how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to freeze their bank accounts. But the point that I want to get to here is, this is surprising. This is the first time I'm hearing about this from you, that they're not going to be actually in front of the White House, because I didn't know that. So if they're going to be parking on some ground outside of DC and just have their own little thing going on there, how effective do you see that being? Because I personally don't know exactly what the point of that would be. I mean, the police wouldn't even have to get involved at that point. They'd just be like, all right, they're doing their own thing. They're not harming anybody. They're not blocking anything. So whatever, they're on private land, leave them alone, sort of thing. So I just, how do you see that being justified?
um, I think you can do what you can get away with doing to make a statement. They, there's no press at all. So, I mean, like I said, they could put on probably, they could put on a festival with, acts from all over the world, and there'd be no press there. So they could put on the best event since, name a big event like yeah, like a huge World's Fair they could put on, from the 1800s, and there'd be no press. Um, so no matter what they do, I think they're challenged to get any type of narrative out. And knowing the fact, that I mean, even if they tried to get into DC, they're not going to be let into DC. So they knew that
Right.
ahead of time. And so they, I think they figured out, that we can go there, make a statement. Also, not knowing how big it's going to be. Also, this was planned before that they saw, military and cops dragging truckers out of their trucks in Canada. So,
Yeah.
I actually wish it got rolling while, the event was going on in Canada. I think it would have been more impactful.
100%. Yeah.
But planning these, things are, are not easy. And then, they plan for safety, they plan for security, logistics. So, I mean, all that had to be worked out. And, I think they've done a good job of that. But, timing has not been in their favor for a number of things. I mean, the crackdown in Canada, and then, the news cycle now with what's going on in Ukraine. So they have a challenge, but I don't see them just driving through the beltway of DC, waving, and then going home. I would
No.
imagine they would stop someplace, um, and so uh, I would think that it would be someplace nearby that maybe they'll have some Republicans speak at the event, which is one thing that I found actually kind of odd. In the United States, when you have a movement or like a convoy like this, you'll see you know, uh, representatives like of the opposite side usually speaking at with them or whatever. In Canada, it seemed like I didn't see anybody, like any of the people from Parliament, like with the people that were there uh, protesting. I didn't see any sort of type of you know video or footage of anybody from Parliament like walking through the crowd, saying, "Hey, we're with you. This is a great, we should have freedom." I didn't see anybody politically latching on to the movement, but I don't know. It was there.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because the feeling that I got was that it was politically, how do I word it? Like taboo to say that because it was, and I made a video about this just the other night. It was genius what they did is by calling them Nazis and misogynist and racist and all that stuff because then everyone saw them as purely that. Well, they're bad people. They have all these labels, and so if any of the government, and I watched the Parliament hearings, it was unbelievable. If any of the people would even so much as show any sort of support whatsoever, not even outwardly saying so, but if they were just like, oh well, you got to go talk to them, Trudeau stood out. Do you identify with Nazis? Do you identify with racists and all this stuff? So it was genius because no one really wanted to be branded like that. No one wanted to be smeared. But I will say that one guy, and he's unbelievable. He kind of has his own party. It's called the People's Party, so the PPC. And Maxime Bernier, if you're familiar with him, and he went up there and he did a nice speech. I think one weekend. I don't know if he made a repeat speech at all. I think he was just there once, but still, yeah. So we had one guy, literally one guy from none of the major political parties speak and support the movement. So I know that there was some conservative MPs going in and shaking people's hands and stuff towards the beginning, but that was like before the whole Nazi thing. And then after that, it was just basically we were on our own. But at that point, from that point forward, I pretty much knew that we're in big trouble because we got to have the support of not only the politicians but of the greater public if we're going to be successful in that. So
Yeah, if you don't have any of the politicians, speaking for you, like within the crowd,
yeah,
it makes it even a little bit harder. That's well, you know, in the United States, there's isn't a camera that a politician will pass up. So down here, if there's some event going on and has any type of people watching, there'll be, a elected official there probably. So, it's whether parades or protests, they're not camera shy, that's for sure. And So I'm sure that there'll probably be some Republican officials speaking at whatever event this People's Convoy ends up doing, wherever they get to. I would imagine there already was some, tweets sent out in support of the convoy from Senator Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. So, they already have, some elected officials supporting, the event. But, I thought that was kind of odd. I mean, if you don't have anybody from Parliament, standing with you side by side, it's even more of a challenge. And they did a great job, I guess, of at the beginning of, the painting, with the one racist flag, that the guy, I think actually, I saw him interview. Um, it actually was you Ottawa Scotty interviewed the guy. He had a it was a QR code, and in the center of it was a Nazi symbol. And
Oh,
I think this was the first day of the event in Canada. We're talking. So he went up to him and interviewed him, and he goes, "I'm using this symbol to say that this passport system, digital vaccine passport system, is like Nazi Germany." So it's like, okay, well, maybe people don't get that when they saw it, but he wasn't supporting Nazism. He was comparing it to the digital passport,
absolutely.
which, well, there goes the whole narrative. If they looked into it, but you see a picture of that, and then just, they make up their own thing. Well, just like, I guess, I don't know who she was, but I saw her speak. I know more about Parliament now, in your country, than I ever thought I would. Ever. There was this one MP that was speaking, and she said, saying honk honk is is like saying, like Hail Hitler, is what
Yeah, yeah.
her own words. I'm like, what? It's like, it's honk honk. It's like, I mean, it's like, it's just kind of weird.
You won't
Um,
believe it. There's some people I've seen. So there's some people who like comment like honk or whatever on my YouTube videos, and like the next second it's gone because YouTube removed it. Isn't
oh,
that
really?
crazy? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
It's that is. I thought it was cute. I mean, I thought it was, because they want to let them blow the horn. They just, were saying it. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, if I mean, in no way is that like, you know, um, racist or demeaning to anybody. I mean, it's very bizarre how how a word. Well, actually, the Let's Go Brandon. There was somebody, I saw this on the news. Somebody had a license plate that they got as a vanity plate, and I don't know if
okay.
you can do that in Canada, but and it was in a conservative state. I want to say, well, I don't know. It was like Montana or something, but he got it in Tennessee, uh,
Oh, there we go. Okay.
and it said, "Let's go, Brandon." The state of Tennessee revoked his license.
No way.
Yes, uh,
Oh,
and so they and he's trying to fight it. But I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that doesn't, it could mean anything. I mean, we know what it means, but I mean, we know what, it can mean, but it doesn't, I mean, the words itself aren't offensive. I mean, it's just freedom of speech.
yeah.
But apparently in Tennessee, they don't, now what if your name was Brandon and you got him for your friend or like your husband was Brandon, and you wanted to give him a present, say, "Let's go, Brandon." I mean, would they would they would they revoke that? I mean, I don't, I mean, what if they had it before, I mean, "Let's go, Brandon," I mean, then they have to give it back, or even though it didn't mean what they thought it meant. I don't know.
Well, I'm just surprised that this happened in a red state, though. I
Yeah,
mean, Tennessee is deep red.
I was surprised to see it too, in a red state. California, you could probably expect something
Be
like that. But
crucified for
yeah,
that.
but Tennessee, it was kind of odd. And I mean, it's nothing offensive either. I mean, it's not. It could mean anything you want it to mean, and it's not, it's not using the words that may be offensive. Um, which may have been one of the mistakes that the Canadian truckers did. Um, I mean, now they could do it, but the flags with the, the Trudeau flags.
Oh, they have Trudeau flags.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I actually heard somebody talk about this that was involved in the convoy, and they said, you know, there's a million different opinions, obviously, involved in a convoy of that size. So uh, they said probably that didn't help them too much. And it might not have, but I thought it was funny. But some people probably get offended by it. But maybe they should have said love Trudeau, and then and
Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, so I guess you have to be careful of even words that don't mean anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go break, because I'm very surprised that that didn't fly, but then you can do it in a bunch of different ways. Like, for example, I was watching the CPAC meeting the other day, and Trump speaking, and Ron DeSantis speaking, and a bunch of other people, and it's on YouTube, and I thought, how did they get away with that? They have like all, like, it was so raunchy, like it was like the Biden or the Brandon administration or the Brandon regime says this and that, and I thought, whoa, like that's pretty, like that's ban worthy in YouTube's eyes. So I'm very surprised that that went, and that was acceptable. But then the "Let's Go Brandon" license plate, no, that's not. You can't, not cool. Can't do that. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah, that's very extremely offensive. So it anything now with the word Brandon in it, I think is off limits. So
Yeah.
if you happen to be named Brandon, maybe you should change your name, because
Yeah,
that
I know.
that could be offensive, moving forward. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it is it's a little crazy with that stuff.
So now this is a little bit of a hot topic with the whole Ukraine situation, because I know you wanted to touch on that. So what do you feel, and I know this is a long shot, but what do you feel is the greater purpose here with the whole Ukraine crisis?
Yeah, this is a story like in desperate need of live streamers. So if you
No
ever get
one
to
can get over
Ukraine, I
there
don't
though.
know, maybe Zelensky will let you in to live stream, because it's it's you can't. It's very hard to figure out exactly what's going on. Um, you know, Viva Fry had a great podcast on YouTube on his
Oh
channel
yeah.
a couple days ago, where he kind of went back and explained a little bit about the history of Russia and Ukraine, and all of the moving parts involved. And it was brilliant. It really everybody should watch that, and it should be too bad more people can't see it, because in order to have an opinion, you really got to take a look into. I mean, some people, well, the media wants to paint it, Russia bad, Ukraine good. Yeah, Russia's bad for invading, killing people, but there's more to that, story. It's not, as simple as Russia bad, Ukraine good. Um, as Viva Fry pointed out, there's a lot of stuff that happened, before, as to why Putin, is even going into Ukraine. So it's it's a complex story, and unfortunately, there's been false propaganda, really everywhere, on both sides. Um, we had it was a congressman, a sitting member of Congress in the United States, was tweeting out a story that was actually fake about the Ghost of Kiev, the fighter that magically killed like 80 Russian jets, and and he tweeted it out, and it's a fake story. It's not true. There was no Ghost of Kiev magical, a jet fighter that killed, 80, shot down 80 Russian jets. Didn't happen. But, it was put out there as true. And it was put out there also by an elected official of, the government, which is even more crazy. You think maybe, whoever he has using his Twitter account would vet the story before he tweets it, being, a sitting member of the government. But there's stories like that going on left and right. I mean, on both sides. So it's really hard to know what is going on. It's a horrible situation, obviously. Where it ends, that's the big question, because Putin doesn't seem like the type of guy that actually is going to back down. And he's currently under financial warfare, being stripped of banking, which is kind of similar to what Trudeau did to the truckers. You take away their bank accounts, you take away them, any way to get money, and so you ruin them financially, and then the people that suffer are actually the people of Russia, and not the oligarchs or the elite over there. So
Absolutely.
it's a tough situation, and I mean, the people of Russia, I mean, they're good people. They're hardworking people. The people of Ukraine that I've seen are good people, hardworking people. A lot of them. It's the governments that are kind of really screwed up at the moment. And but there's a lot more to it, than just Russia bad, Ukraine good. In the United States, Ukraine, it's just, I don't even know. It seems like it's the only country outside the United States, because we had the impeachment, with Trump under Ukraine, and then we had, Biden in Ukraine, telling a prosecutor to do something, and then withholding money to Ukraine. So it's really there's actually too much stuff going on in Ukraine that should be, I think, I don't know I mean, it's like one country in the world, and it seems like it's the pinnacle, before the invasion. This is, I mean, it was just, I don't know. It's, who knows what's going on there, but
Right.
it's it's actually ranked. I think there's a website that ranks corrupt governments, and
Oh God,
and
that's gonna be good.
and it was it made the top 10. So um, which I think everybody in the United States knew ahead of time anyway, based on all the stuff that went on the last 2 years before the Russian invasion. So it's hard to know. It's an interesting story. I will say this. I mean, the president of Ukraine, a comedian actor, now he's a war hero. It is a bizarre story, but it is like it's kind of compelling. To see a guy who was a comedian. He was on the Ukrainian version of Dancing with the Stars, and now he's
What?
yes, yeah, and now he's like in the fight of his life, literally. And so there are some really crazy narratives to this whole story, and he's one of them. He's an interesting character.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So, first of all, I want to ask, just out of pure curiosity alone, on this top 10 list, what was number one for most corrupt government ever?
Uh,
Like Moldova or something?
one, geez. Well, I know like Iran was up there somewhere. I'd have to pull it up. Maybe I got it. It was a who's list of countries to top countries.
Because I know that Biden got like a couple million or whatever from one of the officials there as well in the whole scandal.
Yeah, he made a fortune. His son made a lot of money by working for that Ukrainian oil company. Well, sitting on the board, um, without any prior experience, in oil. So it,
Yeah.
I just want to know how. He's now painting, so he's selling his paintings for like $500,000 each,
No.
and so it,
What?
yeah, and so I'm interested in getting into that. How do I can paint as well as he
Hmm.
can, and 500,000 each for original painting, and they won't tell you who's buying them. So it's, and he's the son of the president, so it's
Okay, so after you verify the most corrupt government, I have a
um,
pretty good comment about that painting thing.
oh, I got one. You know what the least one is Denmark. So
Whoa, that's
yeah,
pretty cool. It shows you the least corrupt as well. I kind of concerning that it's not Canada or the States on
yeah.
there.
I don't know where it can't. They might have to rework Canada on this one. Syria. Well, that would have been.
Serious number one.
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
would have
god.
been. We should have thought of that
We
one.
should've thought of that.
That's
Um, so interestingly enough, so it's a kind of two-part question. Do you think there's going to be any intervention by the states or otherwise, any other countries with the whole Russia-Ukraine invasion? And if there isn't, what do you think is going to be the end result?
I don't see the United States getting involved, like with boots on the ground, and the the president, President Biden, doesn't even want a no-fly zone, which could be implemented, but then you're shooting at Russian jets. So I see this playing out pretty much like what the president said yesterday at the State of the Union address that he had, and basically it's going to be sanctions, uh, gonna banking freeze accounts. They're going after the oligarchs. Private yachts and all, their assets.
Holy.
So it's going to be more of a financial type of warfare, I think, coming from the United States. And seems that's the appetite. I mean, NATO doesn't seem like they really want to get involved either. So I think it's going to be financial. Obviously, Russia is going to at some point, uh, make it to Kiev. I mean, the Russian army is, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they have a lot of assets, so it's kind of you're kind of watching history in the making, kind of knowing what the outcome's going to be. But then there's always a wild card as to what Putin's thinking and what's going on, because he did put his nuclear weapons on high alert. So I mean, you got that. Um, so where that goes, who knows? But I don't think there's any appetite in the United States to get involved at all militarily with people on the ground. I mean, we just got out of a war, like a 20-year war in Afghanistan that was horrific, and so the appetite to go back into another war is not here. Now, do I think Americans wish we could have done something differently to prevent this from even happening? Yeah, I mean, you know, you think there should have been something diplomatically that could have been done before a kinetic war in Europe, uh, but it didn't. So, and without American leadership going over there, I mean, I don't see any other countries, helping the Ukrainian army out at all. So it's where it goes after that, I don't know, because I don't see Putin. Putin's not doing this to so he can like leave power. So it's a wild card. It's interesting. It's almost sort of like the modern day Cuban Missile Crisis, because you've got
Okay.
Russia, you've got the threat of nuclear weapons, you've got fighting in Europe, um, with Russia. So it's and the thing is, nobody really knows where it's going to go, because once you start fighting, I mean, you know, who knows what Russia's going to do? Who knows what Ukraine can do? I mean, they're doing what they can, but the fascinating part of the cyber attacks that I don't think we've seen before. That could be something that happens. You know, cyber attacks from Russia, cyber attacks going the other way. I don't know. And so in that case, you can't live stream because you have no you have no internet. So
No, but what I find to be the most interesting thing is the purpose of the whole donation from this powerful family in Ukraine. And I'm not sure exactly their name, but they did donate it to the Biden family. And I think the whole purpose was about that was to have protection. Say, okay, you know what? I'm making this donation to you so that if there is anything that is to happen, you will step in and help us. That was sort of the deal, I think. And so, now Biden's just like, oh, thanks for that. I'll see you later. You're on your own, sort of thing. So I just think that that's hilarious.
there was a deal actually. It was in the '90s between President Clinton, and the UK.
Okay.
When Ukraine came out of when the Soviet Union crumbled and they had all these separate countries being independent, Ukraine actually had a ton of nuclear weapons. So there was a deal brokered between Bill Clinton, the UK, and Ukraine to get rid of the nuclear weapons. And it's written down on a piece of paper saying that, if you get rid of the nuclear weapons, that, will provide security for your country.
Yeah.
Didn't say specifically what that meant. So it wasn't, an agreement that will come in and, fight next to you. It did, however, say, if you disarm, get rid of your nuclear weapons, uh, United States and UK will be there to help you. So whether we're actually, doing that or not, as to that agreement, you know, if Ukraine had nuclear weapons, I don't think Russia would be invading them. So,
Very good
you know,
point. Very good point.
so they gave up their nuclear weapons only to be invaded, 20 years later. So,
So they
it,
gave up all their aces, I guess.
and which is one of the reasons why nobody wants to go in and help Ukraine, with Russia, because, Russia has you know, nuclear weapons everywhere. So you don't want to fight a nuclear weapon power, which is why all these countries want nuclear weapons, like Iran, because once you have them, you know, people, countries are going to think twice about going in and attacking you, or joining forces to invade. So,
Yeah.
but I think Ukraine, on one aspect, the freedom movement, I think it can stretch, around the globe. So, you know, freedom for Ukrainians is under threat because of, you know, I don't think anybody wants to live under Putin's regime, which is vicious. He attacks all types of groups. So freedom is on the line in Ukraine. Um, and that's one element that seems to be on the line a lot of places, is freedom. And so I mean, what happens there is going to be interesting. It is kind of weird that also in the '90s, by the way, we went into Kuwait. So Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, and so we went into Kuwait to liberate Kuwait from Iraq, based off of freedom.
Hmm.
Oh, oil, but uh, so similar situation. Fast forward 20 years, another country is being invaded, you know, and we don't do anything. So it's it makes you wonder exactly why people get involved, and countries get involved in different wars. Um, the war in Kuwait, it was a desert storm, and then we went in with full blazes. Was really successful. I mean, we pushed Saddam Hussein out, and freed Kuwait. Um, and it was, really a popular war at the time. Um,
Yeah.
but fast forward, Iraq War II, which not so popular. Afghanistan war, not popular. The way we got out of Afghanistan, extremely not popular. And then you have a Kuwait situation. I mean, Ukraine situation. I think countries really are hesitant to get involved. They'll send, I think we're sending military aid, whatever that means, and hopefully we're not sending cash because that will, disappear, obviously. So, but Ukraine, it's interesting. I saw in Parliament in Canada. I mean, they seem like Canada's. Are you guys sending money? I think you're sending like, was it like $1 billion? They were voting on it.
$1 billion.
It was some outrageous amount of money that Canada was. They were debating it in Parliament, and they were going to send to Ukraine. My suggestion was Trudeau should send the people that the stormtroopers he had that beat up the truckers. So
Send them after Putin.
yeah, so they could probably do a good job over there. But
Oh man. So
yeah.
interestingly enough, I because you talked about cash, I'm very interested in hearing your opinion about this. And I've heard very many conspiracies about this, that the paintings that Hunter Biden is making is for, how do you, what is the word for that? Money laundering. So do you think that that is the purpose behind his paintings? And if yes, where do you think that money is going or coming from?
I think they're actually worth more than what people are paying for them. So I think people are paying 500,000. I think they're worth $1 million probably each. I mean, it's what I mean,
Oh,
they're priceless. So I mean, it's really a once of a kind piece of artwork, and you can't really tell what they are because I think he does like abstract painting. So I really don't know what the painting is of, but I think
mm,
he also takes requests. So if you call the gallery that is working with him, he might do something like specifically based off of your request. So that would be something. But where the money goes. See, the problem is that people had tried to get the names of who was buying the paintings public, and they failed. So,
of
um,
course.
you know, the more daylight you have involved, obviously, the better. Um, as to who's actually buying them, but not knowing who's buying them, uh, it's challenging to prove anything. But does it look good? I don't. Probably not. I mean, it's it doesn't look good, obviously. But I say, quite inventive though. I mean, imagine, if some of the Trump, like Eric Trump, started painting, and was selling
Oh, that'd be funny.
paintings. I mean, he could have made a fortune. I mean, look at all the money they could have made. And so I'll give Hunter some credit. It's pretty ingenious.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
I mean, how much does canvas cost, and a little oil paint? I mean, it can't be that much money. So it's a brilliant plan, and I'll say that it's but where that goes, if the Republicans take control of the Congress, and it's going to be a fascinating few months for the elections coming up in November. So if the Republicans take over the House and the Senate, they're supposed to have oversight over uh, different situations, and I imagine they'd look into it and see, who's buying the paintings. Do a freedom of information a request to find out who's buying them. You know, I think one was heading up there to Canada. I don't know who bought it, but it you
Ollie
might
Trudeau.
yeah you might see it in the halls of Parliament at some point.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny because all the people in the chat here are like, absolutely, it's money laundering. How did you guys just figure this out now? So, oh
There's a
man.
legal okay, so there's a legal there's a legal term.
Okay.
I will say that. So I have no proof of it. Like I said, it doesn't look good. And it's a
Okay.
brilliant idea. I mean, it's like I said, I bet you Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. are saying, why didn't we think of that? We could have, they could have cashed in. But yeah, it's one of many of Hunter Biden's side jobs.
I mean, it would be so interesting to become rich and become part of that world. And I always would just imagine it be like the parting of the Red Sea, just like, oh, I can finally see what's going on. Like, oh my gosh. Because honestly, I think there's just so many things going on that we can only fathom, that exist. Like I was on the streets in during the convoy, and some people were talking about stuff like conspiracy theories and stuff, and like it was like at the first time I had it mentioned to me, it was like, okay, like that's a little bit ridiculous, but the more and more people would tell me about it, it's like unbelievable, and it's things I can't even talk about on YouTube, so it's crazy. But I think so. Do you think that this whole invasion with the whole Ukraine Russia thing would happen if we still had Trump as president?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No, it's the crackdown on truckers in Canada when Trudeau would not have done that either if Trump was in office. So there's a lot of things, whether you love Trump or hate Trump. Um, over 4 years he was in there, and I don't recall there was how many countries were invaded. None. So, um, in fact, he met with the leader of North Korea.
Kim Jong.
I mean, yeah.
Yep, yep.
So, yeah, it definitely would not be happening the way it is now with Trump in office. And it, honestly, shouldn't be happening with Biden in office. It's a failure of presidential leadership, no matter who was in that office. And it's sad because there was a time when the president of the United States could pick up the phone and call a leader like Putin and say, you're not doing this because of blah 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 blah, and they want to do it. There'd be some backroom deal done, and they'd move on. But
Yeah.
it's a bad situation all around. And I think if Biden probably had picked up the phone, called Putin and said, okay, we're not going to vote to get Ukraine into NATO because they want to be in NATO. Never going to happen. Ukraine's not going to be in NATO. I mean, Finland's not even in NATO. I mean, so, and the reason they're not in NATO, Ukraine, was because of all the, corruption in the government that they were trying to work out. But, it's a bad situation, and it's a lack of leadership is what it is. And you can tell when you don't have a strong leader engaged, in the United States, a lot of stuff's going to happen. And, it's sad for all the people of Ukraine, and it's sad for those Russian, the people in Russia. Like I said, they're all, the people of Russia aren't rich. I mean, you know, they're poor, they're hardworking. Same thing with people of Ukraine. So it's a sad situation that the people in power couldn't figure out how to avoid the whole situation, and it definitely stems from leadership. So
Wow. So I want to touch on that, but I'm very curious about what you mentioned just previously there, and I want to know why exactly you think that Trudeau would not have cracked down on the truckers as hard as he did if Trump was in office. Was it
Uh,
just like an intimidation sort of thing, or?
yeah, no, I don't see. Uh, what's kind of ironic is the blockade was going on at one of the bridges. I forget where it was. Windsor, Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so the federal government of the United States uh, put out a public notice to uh, Canada and Trudeau that they need to clear the blockade and use federal force. So he was being, what's the word, egged on or encouraged, I guess would be a good word. He was being encouraged by the government of the United States to crack down on the protesters and the truckers.
Okay.
So that, would not have happened if Trump was in office, because, a lot of those people, I mean, a lot of those people either like Trump or support Trump, or, I think there was probably a wide range of people's, politics there, but those are like, Trump's type of people, his base. And I think that uh obviously, he would not have encouraged the strong police action that took place on a peaceful protest. Now,
Okay.
ironically, I will say, I didn't see too much from Trump's office, like because he has a PR lady now that sends out tweets on his behalf, and I didn't see a lot of tweets from him regarding the Canadian truckers. I think he put out one at the beginning, but I didn't see anything from him condemning the military action to get rid of them, which I
Okay.
thought was kind of surprising. But yeah, that it wouldn't have happened. Now, something else would have happened somewhere probably because he was in office. But I'll say one thing though, Trump, under 4 years, there really wasn't a lot happening in the globe. We were trying to get out of wars, so it definitely would have been different. And it would have been different too, if Hillary Clinton was in the White House. So
That's an interesting point. How do you think it would be different? Okay, first of all, another interesting question. Do you think she would be better than Biden?
uh, yeah, because she'd be actually. I mean, she knows where she is. I mean, so you
At
know,
the very least.
yeah. At the very least, she is she's younger than Biden. Um, I think by maybe 5 years, maybe. But she, you know, it seems to be more aware of what's going on. Um, Now, with some of the same policies, now, Hillary Clinton is a hawk, and that's, common knowledge. She loves, you know, she's a huge war uh, fan. So she loves, going to war. I mean, she was involved with the, debacle in Iran. No, Libya. Yeah,
Okay.
Libya, which nobody talks about. Um, so it would have been different. I mean, because she would have been probably more active. Um, at the moment, everybody's trying to figure out actually who is, you know, running the White House. So
Right.
um, it it Biden says, comes out and says a few things and then goes back, and I don't think a lot of people really know, who is his chief advisor, who is he listening to, who's behind the scenes. Um, it's not Kamala Harris, because there's a number of reports that are out there in the mainstream press. They don't get along too well. The Biden team and the Harris team. So, um, who knows? I think situation would probably be better with Kamala Harris as president. So,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah.
So I haven't heard a lot about her in a while, but the things that I did hear were almost exclusively negative. So, why do you think that she would be better?
Well, I don't know if it can get much worse. Yeah. So, I mean,
Okay.
the the lack of leadership on almost every issue. You know, the fact. I mean, he looks tired. I mean, whether you voted for him or not, and I'm not going to tell you who I voted for because I may or may not be embarrassed by it, but um,
No way. Oh no.
but whether you voted for him or not, if you have just an honest, independent opinion and look at it, the situation, you can see that he is not up to the task of being a leader and commander in chief, of the free world. Um,
Hmm.
it's just not happening. We have a border crisis, an opioid crisis. You know, Nobody knows what's going on with COVID. That you got to wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask. CDC says, wear this, don't wear this, wear that. It's so confusing. It's like uh, unbelievable. So yeah, Kamala Harris. Honestly, give her a shot. She's got what 3 years left there. So I'd say, you know, give her a shot for 3 years. See what happens.
Oh man, Kamala Harris. That would be interesting. That if the first female president was actually the vice president, and Biden resigned, and that was the whole reason that she came in. That would be really interesting. But I'm
Well,
just I just can't wrap my head around this whole Ukraine Russia thing and Biden, because first of all, I don't understand what reason would he have to stay out of it like he is, because wouldn't it be in his financial interest to intervene, because he got a bunch of money from some oligarchs in Ukraine. So I'm just trying to figure out why he's not intervening, and maybe you can provide some insight on that.
I think that is the $1 million question, as to why no country is intervening. So, um, you know,
Hmm.
they've all called it out, saying it's, horrific, it's wrong, it's illegal invasion. But there's not one country that is willing to go in with boots on the ground or even in the air to support them. So
Right.
you got to wonder what's going on. Why is that? Is it just because nobody wants a nuclear weapon flying, in their direction? Because
I think
you
that's
know,
part of it. Yeah.
so I think there's a calculation. Um, if you agree with it or not. I mean, it's kind of for all of the freedom loving Americans and freedom loving people across the globe. Um, it is challenging because you know under Putin, they're not going to be free, obviously. Anybody living there is going to have rights removed from them. So it's now, like I said, Ukraine corrupt government to begin with, but um, it is a $1 million question as to why not one country is willing to back them up, even in the air. So, and in fact, actually, yesterday, I think Poland wanted to send some jet fighters, just the fighters, not the people, not the soldiers. They were willing to donate jet fighters to Ukraine so that the army, Ukrainian army, can use them. And NATO said, no, they can't do that. Uh,
Ah.
so it's a is a definitely an odd situation to see so much condemnation of an act, but nobody willing to go in physically and back it up.
Right.
And it's especially one of the countries around there. I mean, you know, both Canada and I mean, we're like what are we like 8,000 miles away, 4,000 miles away?
Something around that.
So, I mean, you've got countries there that are, right next door. You got, France, you've got, Poland, you got a bunch of them. So, I mean, but none of them wanted anything to do with it either. So and I think, part of it is, I think a lot of these Ukrainians thought they were actually going to get help, uh, military help.
Yeah.
And, they didn't, and they're not. And that's another, tragic event. Um, it's where it winds up, who knows? It's you know I'll take the stand. I'll fight for freedom anywhere. I mean, freedom has to be fought for. It's not given. So, and I mean, so fight, literal, not the literal sense. You have to stand up for freedom. So, we're sending, aid. Does it do anything? I don't know. Russia's still going to invade, and I think, it's like every day they say they're getting closer. So I don't, it it it's a situation that I think, you got countries have to look at and say, what, you know why didn't they help? Why didn't they stop it before it happened? That would be the, way to go. I mean, we're in what, year 2022, and there's mainstream media talking about, nuclear war. It's like, you kidding me? Really?
Maybe that's why the other countries don't want to intervene, because of the fear of nuclear action. And it is interesting because I thought that today's day and age we'd never have any more wars because of the whole nuclear aspect. I mean, anybody thinks about starting a war, oh, you got the nuclear threat, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, Greg, but I do want to ask one last question, because this is a big one. This is the money
Oh, this is
question here.
oh, this is a big one. I got one. I got one for you too.
Oh, perfect. Okay, we'll trade. I'll go first. So, do you think that this is just all for show and this is just a sort of charade? Because I've seen a whole bunch of videos on the internet about, little kids being blown up and stuff, and many people have said that they've been staged. So a lot of people believe that this is an embellished conflict a lot more than it is, and it's just making people fearful and distracting from maybe something else, a more pressing issue going on in their home country. Um, and yeah, exactly. What do you think is the purpose of this? And do you think that Russia is going in with the aim of taking over the entire country?
Well, I think Russia's aim is to get a new government in charge, that is friendly to Russia.
Okay.
I don't think they want to control, the western part of Ukraine, but they want a Russia-friendly government. So if they get that, I think that, they would, stop, because that's what they, Putin even said it in his addresses. And I will say this: the one thing, it's always a challenge, because I don't speak Russian, so um, it's always a challenge to get exactly the feeling of what a leader is saying that doesn't speak your language. So if Putin was speaking English, I think it'd be a lot easier to figure out what the heck he's doing, what's going
Right.
on.
Okay.
But the translations never seem to make. I don't know if you've listened to any translations, but they always seem like, the guy's talking for like 5 hours, and then the translator goes, and so that's it. What? What?
I'm seeing that too. It's hilarious.
I,
I'm like, there's no way it was that short of a sentence.
I,
Like,
like, I think you're missing something. It's like, what?
lost in translation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're going on forever, about, it's like huge speech, and then translations like, and so that's it. It's like, what? It's like, I think he said more than that. I don't know. He might have left out the key parts. you know, might be missing it. So, not speaking the language is tough, and it's tough for, I think, the press and for independent people like you and myself to figure it out, because we don't speak Russian, and you can't, easily find out what exactly is he saying and what is he meaning. And but he obviously has said that he wants, a government that is friendly to Russia. So I
Okay.
think if he got that, he'd leave, but who knows? Well, not leave, but I think
Back off somewhat.
he'd back off. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first question? The oh, the propaganda. Yeah, we
Yeah.
we touched on that a little earlier. I mean, there's a lot of propaganda on both sides. You just have to go on Twitter or see some of the stuff on there, and there's some people calling it out. What is fake and what isn't, and like the Ghost of Kiev, which was proven to be fake. And so there's a lot of staged photos. So that was one of them. And it's tragic because who are these people? That's what I want to know. Who are these
Right.
people that just put out this fake stuff on purpose? It's like who is paying them to do it, and why would you do it? And if you're not being paid to do it, why stop it? It's like I mean, it just seems it's hard enough in the fog of war to figure out what's going on, but then you have fake people like trolls putting out stuff that is fake. Are they being paid to do it? Who knows? uh but then it comes out that it is fake, but then it's too late because it's been out there. um
Right.
so it's a challenge, especially like there's no live streamers on the scene. There's no Ottawa's version of
Yeah.
Ukraine walks, or Kiev walk.
Ukraine walk.
you know so
I wish I could be over there, but I don't think they're letting any purebloods in as far as I'm concerned. So I'd have
yeah,
to smuggle
just
myself.
well, yeah, if the Red Prince was on the ground, maybe we could have an idea of what is going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only things I'd be concerned about is, being blown up or arrested. So, I mean,
Well, that's why you get paid. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
oh, exactly, exactly. Yeah, the only question now is what am I going to do with the channel, right? It's a big question. But that looks like a massive piece of paper, Greg. So I'm curious how many questions you got on there for me because
Oh, I'm not. Well, see, a lot of it was my grocery list. So I got, I got to pick up milk. But I got eggs I got to get, and but so
that's okay.
so there's a couple of questions. One of them,
Okay.
okay, do you miss the convoy?
Absolutely, I missed the convoy. I mean, I wish that we could be talking face to face. I wish that I could be talking face to face with a lot of people. I'm having a lot of people on the show this week just to follow up and see how they're doing. Uh, Now that the convoy is done, I mean, I didn't have the chance to get a lot of their contact information. I didn't get the chance to see them as it all ended, so I don't know if they got arrested or what happened there. So I'm gonna get their stories this week. Yes, I absolutely missed the convoy. One of the biggest things I miss, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I miss the food. It was just amazing. The people who were cooking there every single day for me, they'd just be like, "Oh, hey, Chris, like, what do you want? Do you want, a burrito? Do you want this? Do you want soup? You got all this stuff?" And I was like, "Load me up, man. I'll eat whatever." And so I absolutely miss it. There was such a personal element there, and I think I talked about it in my other videos where not a single person was like this looking down at their phone. It was all they're looking up at the people. They're wanting to know about you. They're asking personal questions. Hey man, why are you here at the convoy? What's your name? Where are you from? All this stuff. So it was something that I not even just related to COVID. I haven't experienced that ever. So, I don't even know my neighbors as well as I know some of the people there. Just total strangers. That, a 15-minute conversation, I know them better than I know my neighbors where I've been next to them for 10 years. So, that to sum it up, I absolutely miss the convoy so much. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like it well, I miss it because it was you never knew what you were going to capture during a live stream. And
Hmm.
it's great that it's all documented, because if you tried to explain it to somebody, they would think you were crazy. So you can actually point to video evidence of what happened. And it looked what was captured. what was captured on live streaming, I can imagine, was probably just a small sample of what it was like being there. And
Oh,
it,
yeah, it was amazing. Like, so I personally was staying in an Airbnb in Gatineau, which is right across the border, and it would be the equivalent of states. So you cross state lines, and I walked every day just across the river. And because Parliament is situated right on the river, you can see the buildings and everything, and it just looks mythical almost. And you had, like, on the weekends sometimes fireworks shooting up from Parliament Hill, and then you heard the horns from a distance, and it was literally like, it was like a feeling that ran through you. It was something that I could never ever describe to somebody. It's something that I could never, I don't think, replicate in my entire life. Like, I don't think, at least in this decade of my life, there will ever be anything that will measure up to that. And I think in that moment, the beauty of that was that I even knew that. Like, right there, while I was standing there, I was like, I want to enjoy every single bit of this that I possibly can, because I know for a fact that I'm never going to have an experience like this ever again in the near future. And I know that this is going to end soon. I know that it's not going to be popular with the politicians, and they're going to try and squash this. So I was walking around for like 10 hours a day, just like pushing myself to the limits, just out there, hanging out with the guys, hanging out with, everybody that would talk to me. And it was just like, unforgettable experience, Greg. I can't even begin to emphasize that. And
yeah, it's definitely, a once in a lifetime thing.
yeah,
It's sort of a modern day Woodstock, and years from now, you can say you were there. And hopefully, they get something back together. And because, honestly, that group of people, it seemed like if they were like to buy a town somewhere, it's like someplace I'd want to live, or like buy a house, because it just seems like you can tell the drastic difference just by looking up Wellington Street.
yeah,
What when they were there, it was how you kind of imagined it would have been like, at the beginning, with people, talking, and people cooking food, and music, and jubilation, in a country's capital, right? The heart of the country. And then, that's sort of what it was like. And then you kick them all out, and then you see like the live streams coming there now, and it's like, yeah, it's like that. It's like there's no humanity left. It's the streets of, barren, and it's just there's no sign of that type of humanity. Seemed like they kicked that out when they kicked out the truckers.
see, that's the thing. That's a really, really good idea that you just posed there. I think someone like some rich dude who's like really loves freedom should just be like, yo, guys, I'm building Freetown here. Everybody who wants, like, what happened with the convoy, move here, live here in this town. And like, oh my God, that would be awesome. Everybody
It,
knows everybody, block parties all the time. Oh God, it would be great.
it would be it would be extremely popular. It would be. Yep. Yeah, sign me up that.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's just if we could do it in Florida, preferably, or well, I guess we wouldn't even need to do it in Florida. It's already free there, so I don't know. I definitely don't want to stay in Canada after this, but I don't think I have the means just yet to get out of here.
Well, once they get rid of the vaccine passports, and you can cross over.
Then I can consider, yes, yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I think someplace warmer might be good.
Oh, absolutely. It's ridiculous up here. I mean, it's like -1 up here right now. And
Really,
that's okay. So that's not Fahrenheit, but I would say that's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's like warm for our like region. Like, it's horrible. The weather's bad. So the thing is, for me, I've always said it to everyone who I met at the convoy, that if I lived in California, I would be able to bear the bad mandates and the COVID idiocy and all that because of the good weather, right? Like, it's like, okay, whatever, like I gotta wear a mask and all this stuff, but at least I can go to the beach, and at least I can just walk around in the sunshine. But here it's like you go outside and it's dark at like 4:30, and it's just not a good atmosphere. So because the thing is, in the wintertime, you got to keep in mind the only things that you can do is go to the bar and go to the club and, go to the movie theater and all these places that are indoor based where you can no longer go now that, for the people who don't have the shot. So it's just an interesting sort of dynamic here. And I was really, really banking on that convoy succeeding, but I'm just more or less curious now what is going to be happening and what's going to be the future direction for our country.
Yeah, I think that it's going to continue. I've heard rumors that is going to continue in some fashion. I know a lot of the guys, the truckers that were there up front, have gone home to relax because, after
Yeah,
being there for 3 weeks, it's emotional. I actually heard one trucker that was there, sadly passed away. And
Manitoba guy. It's something Platt, I believe.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, Dennis
So that,
Platt, I think.
yeah, so that's kind of a sad story that he was away from his family for 3 weeks, got back, and then passed away.
Yeah,
Um,
almost immediately I heard as well.
yeah, um, but I think a lot of truckers got there. I saw the Romanian guy got his truck back. Um, the guy that with the red truck.
Oh, that
Yeah,
Chubba guy.
Chaba. Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Okay.
guy. Now this guy right here is a story in itself.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, right? He was over sort of like on the side, like he was kind of away from all the action, like with you know, uh, another trucker, Christian, next to
That's
Eric's
right. The
truck,
yellow truck. Yeah.
and so he kind of away from the action for weeks, and then he built up a really big camaraderie with Eric, and I think it kind of broke his heart when he left, and because
Yeah.
they said that it would be there till the end, and so you could see that he was emotionally disturbed by people leaving him when they said they were going to be there till the end, and so that was emotional, and then uh it ended up that then Christian left him, so then he was the only truck in that section by
Yeah.
himself, and so then I happened to flip on a live stream, and I see him. He moved his truck, and he actually moved it up front into like you know closer to where Wellington Street was,
That's
and
right.
it's like that was pretty cool. And he got stuck, and I don't know if anybody has seen this video, but he got stuck in the snow, and the police for some reason let him do it, which is amazing. He like snuck in, and he got stuck in the snow, and these groups of Canadians were there, and they got behind his huge truck and pushed him up the hill, to where he needed to go instead of being stuck out, in nowhere's land.
Whoa.
That image there was really quite impressive, and then the next day the raids happened, and you know you were wondering, oh well, did he get arrested or whatever, but he ended up moving his truck up further, and he was right up front, like right with stage, next to where that the shed was broadcasting from.
Right.
So he managed to get like a front row seat, and he literally lasted to the end. I mean, he was the one trucker that stayed, moved up. He kept getting closer to the action. So he kept getting
Yeah.
closer to the action, was right up front, and then came out of his truck when I call it military, but because they certainly look like military.
Damn
When
right.
they pulled up, he got out of his truck and gave up and surrendered, and then he got beat the heck out of, and
Oh, I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but this guy, I mean, that's courage right there. That guy, um, he
Yeah.
peacefully protested, said exactly what he was going to do, did it, and I mean, and then luckily he ended up getting his truck back. So that is a great story right there. I think it's a movie. That could be like a
Yeah. And I heard he got interviewed by Fox as well, and he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
like I just took it like a man." Like all the
yeah, yeah.
apparently, I heard like he was really really upset when Christian left. Like Eric was like a big like he was angry about that too, but Christian was really like the straw that broke the camel's back for him because, I mean, it's all these guys who are there in his area backing him up and saying, "Yeah, yeah, man, we're gonna be here to the end," and then they ended up leaving and cowering and just running with their tails between their legs. So I didn't. That was not a good look for sure. Saying you're gonna do one thing and then doing something completely different.
Yeah, it goes to show you that but this guy, I mean, I got to tell you one thing. If ever I was going to a protest or any type of anything else, this guy told you he was going to do something, he would do it. I mean, he's like
Oh yeah,
that guy has got that guy's that guy's that guy's one of the stars and one of the stories to come out of the whole event. And it's a great story, even though it ended tragically, but he actually did get his truck back, so that was a good thing. So it could have they could have seized it because there was talk about selling them and selling the truck. I did a story on that actually, but the mayor of Ottawa wanted to sell the trucks and use the money to pay the departments and the businesses that were closed. It's like, well, you closed them. I mean, the businesses could have stayed open and made a fortune, as some of
yes.
them did.
Some of them did. You're very right
Yeah.
about that. Spark Street, there was this one strip just for pedestrians only, and it was right behind Wellington Street. And I remember there was this one guy open for food and whatever. I think it was like a pizza shop or whatever. And like it was like a lineup wrapping around the block, and the guy made a killing. But that's capitalism for you, man. Like I believe that if you take the risks, if you get out there and you hustle, you will be rewarded for it. So all these people who are running away like they did, I mean, it serves them right that they lost money.
Yeah, if I had a business there, I would have been open and delivery service and whatever. I mean, you could have cleaned up. I mean, it.
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah,
Yeah,
you could have made like so much money, especially if you were like any sort of like Uber or Skip the Dishes or anything like that. You wouldn't even have to like spend gas money. You'd just be able to like walk up and down the street and deliver everything, like
hmm.
huge orders and whatever. Honestly, it was a massive. That's what I should have done. I should have double dipped. I should have streamed and then
Yeah,
did the Uber Eats. Or
delivery. Yeah,
exactly,
I've got one large pizza, pepperoni, some
exactly.
coffee. And, well, they did have mailboxes, so
They did have
yeah,
mailboxes. You're right about that. I thought that was hilarious. So it would have
yeah,
been quite easy to get that whole thing going.
that was funny. Yeah, and I bet you they would tip well.
Oh, for sure they would. They're getting all these like cash donations and everything.
Hmm.
I should have done that. Oh my God. Why are all these genius ideas just coming to me now?
Now you can just save them for next time when you get
Yes, exactly.
a
If this was to
peaceful.
ever happen again.
Yeah, well.
I doubt it, but I'll keep the ID up here until then.
Oh, the cold weather. Yeah, that was the other aspect of this whole story that was underreported. So
Okay.
in the United States, right? We're tough, but you know, 30 below wind chills. We're not we're not standing outside dancing. That was really amazing what was going on there. They were not only you know protesting, they were out there in frigid temperatures with
Yeah.
snow and biting wind chills. I mean, I saw one guy that was working at the convoy down the southern part of Ottawa. I think by some bridge area overpass. Uh, he actually got frostbite, and he was showing the guy, his hands, where actually he is going to lose a finger
What?
because yes, because
Oh my.
he got frostbit. Because a couple of those nights, as you know, were like 30 below wind chills, well, Fahrenheit. So it's so it was brutal. I mean, you don't see protests like that in the dead of winter in that temperature and that many people, and that was crazy.
Whoa. Yeah, it was a little tough at times. I mean, for anybody watching, like they heard me, I was like, oh, my hand was just like you had to peel it off the gimbal pretty much at the end of the day. And I think at one point the cold, let's see, I think the coldest I've ever been in while at the convoy was, I believe, negative 30 degrees. And I think at that point, it doesn't really matter whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius. So, yeah, it was really cold. And some guys were out there. They were like, the Saturdays, the Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays were like party central, right? And it was like really cold this one weekend. There was a guy with no gloves out there, no hat. He was just roughing it. And yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like some of these guys, because I was wearing like the fattest jacket I could find with like 7 layers underneath, and I was still freezing. And then like gloves the size of friggin' soccer balls. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a mission for sure. I don't know how anybody else did it, being so underdressed. Maybe they were like really drunk or something, but like, I don't know. It was tough at times for sure.
Yeah, I think yeah, a little Canadian whiskey might have helped.
It had to have been. I mean, I can't see anything else. Like the
Yeah,
fluctuations too with the temperature were ridiculous. Like sometimes, like it would go sometimes up by like 30 degrees in one night.
wow.
Like, and I believe that's even more dramatic when you convert that to Fahrenheit. That's like a that's like a 60-degree change or whatever. Like I don't. It was unbelievable. Like it would be freezing, and then it would be above freezing the other day. Like 30, like minus 30 one day, and then plus like 6 the next day. It was like unbelievable. So people really got roughed up by not only the weather but by the police as well. So.
Yeah, the double whammy.
Yeah, exactly. Double
Mm.
whammy. But do you have another question for me, by the way, on that sheet of yours? I
Yeah,
know
so
there was quite a few.
uh, okay, out of all the unique people that you've met during your time
Ooh,
reporting,
this is gonna be a good one.
who would you say is the one person that had an impression on you that you absolutely want to go talk to this person again?
I'm actually gonna have him on the show later this week.
Now,
His
I didn't know that either. So it's a good segue to your show.
It is a good
Yeah,
segue.
yeah.
He introduced himself to me in a really memorable way. He said, "My name is Justin, not Trudeau." And then it just kind of stuck. Every single time I saw him on the streets, I was like, "Hey, Justin, not Trudeau, what's up? Like, what's up, man?" And we would talk, and he would talk to me about these crazy things. And actually, I posted a clip of me interviewing him from one of my live streams, and the people in the comment section were like, "Whoa, like I fact checked this guy and he's actually right, and this is crazy and holy." So I was like, "Oh, like this guy's awesome. Okay, well, like I'm gonna definitely like have him on the channel later on this week." And because I actually the only reason why I was able to reconnect with him is because of the channel. Because I like I said, I didn't get anybody's number. I just didn't think to do so because I thought that the protest would have lasted a lot longer. So he actually ended up commenting on one of my videos. "Oh, Chris, like it was so nice to talk to you, awesome." And then I was like, "Well, Dan, like message me privately then, and then like, well, I'll give you my personal number and everything." And then yeah, it just went from there. We had a few phone conversations, and like there's some people at these protests that you talk to that you just know that you're going to be talking to them and keeping in touch for quite a long time. It's like lifelong connections, if you know what I mean. But there was a few instances of really, really memorable people that were there. And I don't know if you've seen this lady. I hear a video or a picture of her kind of went viral, but she had like this mohawk, and it was like super tall, and she had like a Canadian
The
flag
flag,
painted
yeah.
on it. I thought
Yeah.
that was hilarious. And then another one was Revin Kevin in his truck. He was the guy who was just flooring it all the time.
Yeah, Kevin.
That one was really memorable. There was just a bunch of people, and I can't. I met all kinds of reporters, Travis from Not TV on Facebook, and just so many people who told me their stories, told me, you know, about their journey to get here. There was this one girl who came all the way from Vancouver, BC, and she maxed out her credit cards to get here, and it was like, didn't have a way to get home. She was sleeping with a spare bunk that they had at the convoy. It was just like crazy stories of people from all different walks of life to get there. But if I had to choose one of the most memorable, as per your question, I think I'd go with the famous, the legendary, the man himself, Justin Not Trudeau.
Yes. Okay. So that not the real one.
Not the real one. No, of
Okay.
course. We're never going to choose
That,
the real one.
yeah, that would be the.
Mutiny.
Yeah, that would be interesting. If he's on your show next week, I'm sure that people want to see what he has to say.
Oh, absolutely. This guy is so knowledgeable. And he talks a lot about Klaus Schwab and the New World Order. I don't know if you have any opinions on that, but I guess if you do, now's the time to.
It's another probably 2 hours. It's there's a lot of I don't get into conspiracies, or as Steve Bannon says, who I don't know if you're familiar with, but he was Trump's campaign manager, and he has a podcast. But his saying is, there are no coincidences, but there are no conspiracies, or something like that. I might have screwed it up. It could have been there are no conspiracies, but there are no coincidences. So obviously, there's the Great Reset, and you got, Klaus Schwab, and you got the World Economic Forum, and you've got your lady there, Freeman, who is on, a high up official of the World Economic Forum, the one that, was actually taking joy in saying what she was going to do to crush, citizens of Canada who participated in the protest. So you have all of this stuff out there. They say what they actually publish a lot of it, the organizations themselves. How much of it is actually enacted into a real type of movement? I don't know. I have not actually researched it a lot. I know it's out there, and I know about it. I know for a fact that the Freeman is influenced by the World Economic Forum because she's a member of the executive team. So obviously she is. It, it doesn't sound like a group that I would like to go party with. it they seem to want to have digital ID and other things that can track your movement, like in China, at social credit scores and all that. I haven't done any stories about that. I know on the publication that publishes my articles, they've gone into depth on some of those stories. Headlineusa.com, but I haven't done the research enough to really say. I like to speak from knowledge, and I don't have direct knowledge of any of it because I didn't look into it, but
Okay.
I know it's out there, and I know a lot of people really are a lot smarter than I am because they've done, a lot of research on what's going on globally with these organizations, and it does uh, seem to add up into one direction, and that's the digital passports. So it's something that I think anybody you know should probably look into, and you know obviously it had an effect on the deputy prime minister. Is that who that is? Freeman,
I
the deputy.
don't exactly know a
Yeah, she.
lot about the positions.
I think she was the deputy prime minister. Um, how she got elected up there, I don't know, but maybe it's a ticket between Trudeau and her. But
Mm.
but she's definitely a member of that organization. Her picture's on their webpage. So, um, She doesn't seem like she's for the blue class working people.
Well, I don't think many politicians really are. They
So
like to say that they are, but not many of them actually are.
yeah, well, our politicians, a lot of them, they might go in with good intentions, and then something happens.
Yeah.
But there are some good ones. It's just not enough of them. And but yeah, that whole thing. It's I know Eric, the trucker, talked a lot about it. He probably, Eric. If you ever interview Eric, the trucker, he knows that by the back of his hand. That whole the backstory on World Economic Forum, Klaus
Mm.
Schwab, and put it this way. If I had the choice of hanging out with Klaus Schwab, George Soros, and Bill Gates compared to the truckers, I, it's not much of a choice. I don't care how much money you have. You know, I'll go with the truckers.
That's an interesting point because the politicians are like, oh, like of course I'll hang out with the rich dudes. Like they can make me also rich. It's crazy because like when you think about it, the salary of a politician isn't that much, but yet politicians get so much money when they're in office, and I'm just like, I wonder how, right? It's just like, under the table stuff happening all the time. And I guarantee you that Trudeau himself is not the actual leader of Canada. And just like Biden is not the actual leader of the States. So somebody's pulling the strings, and we just got to find out who that is.
Well, they make their money by selling paintings, so that's how it.
That's right. I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah,
So
so
every
little
prime minister and president just gets rich off of paintings. How
they're
could I forget?
they're on Etsy.com, and they got
Yeah.
can
Five
buy
hundred thousand dollars, please.
yep. And I think they pay for shipping, so
Oh, of course. There you go. Like that'll hurt, the $70 or $80 shipping out of the 500,000 that they're making. I'm sure that won't. That'll be so much off the cuff for them. It'll just be unacceptable.
Okay, I have one more a little story here that I'll end my time, with you on. I got a million more questions, but we're going on 2 hours, so
That's okay.
So the coming up this Friday, I was really excited because I saw this news story that posted today, and it has to do with a large impact on the moon that's going to take place. It's a space junk that is traveling over 5,000 miles an hour. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but
that's like that's probably like 2,000 kilometers an hour.
Okay. So it's kind of fast. So so it's heading to the moon. This huge giant. It's like 60 feet by 40 feet piece of space junk, and it's going to impact the moon in the biggest collision that the moon has had in decades. So I was all excited because I'm like, oh, I got something to do this weekend. I can watch it, And then I'm reading the article, and it's like invisible to any space telescopes. I'm like, well, what? Well, how is that? What? It's like, what are you telling me that for then?
So is this like a massive piece of metal, or like how much of a damage is it gonna have on the moon?
They say it's supposed to have a huge cratering effect that if it was visible to telescopes, that it would be a huge crater on the moon. So
Okay.
it's like you can see it's obviously it's on the other side of the moon, and for some reason telescopes can't get there, but I think they can monitor the debris that the impact, the moon dust that comes up. But it's a huge event. But then, like I said, I was kind of disappointed afterwards because it's like, well, you can't see it. So it's
Yeah,
like,
what's the point then?
so if we could get some live streamers to the opposite side of the moon, that would be something. You'd probably get I'd say 100,000 subs and maybe 1 million likes pretty quickly.
Oh, way more than that.
If you
Way more
perform.
than that. I
The so
gotta take a ride up with the space station the next time I get the chance.
so I thought I was excited because it sounds like an interesting thing to see, but then you can't see it. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost like what's going on in Ukraine. You don't know what's going on. So
Well, there's a lot of that, right? There, you don't really know what's going on, and it seems like the rich people have their little star chambers here, and they know what's going on, but the rest of the people don't. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about all this other stuff, but then again, COVID was a conspiracy theory a couple of months ago or a couple of years ago. So, oh, it's just really interesting to see the direction where everything is going to go from here on out. And I think the truth will be revealed eventually, but it's going to take some time.
yeah, it'll be the truth will be on your channel.
I really hope so. I really hope so.
So
I'm trying to segue the channel into more of a sort of entertainment aspect with more positive stuff because I don't know if you have this sort of inclination that politics is just inherently negative. Like, nowadays at least, because you hear about all this stuff, you kind of like, oh man, I don't want to know all this stuff. Like, it's like, the more you know, the more you don't want to know, and you kind of just have this overwhelming feeling of being disappointed. Can you relate to that at all?
yes, in fact, the I actually took a break from writing some articles because after the convoy and digging into all the information and the research and all that, it's emotional. I mean, you're human, so and then the way it ends up and stuff, and it's I was planning to cover the presidential State of the Union and write a story on that, but it I watched it and I'm like, it's like I don't think I got nothing to say, and it's like why my energy level went drastically down. So it's like, there's a million things you could say about the State of the Union address and what the president said and didn't say, and but what is the purpose? It doesn't. It's not going to get you any uh, more. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Leverage to change things. So So yeah, politics. It's a hard. The news in general actually is lately is a hard. If you're reporting the truth and looking for the facts, it's hard. It's depressing. It's not an easy gig to do. Now if you're making stuff up and you're just reporting whatever you want that they tell you to do, that's a different story because you're not involved in doing the research and you know uh, writing the article. But yeah, it's I had to take a break from it. So I think my next story is going to publish tomorrow, and it's an upbeat story on
Okay.
on China and their land grab in for farmland in the United States. So
That's
it's
positive. Come on,
well,
Greg.
it well, I did have this this junk thing that I was gonna the space junk that was flying into the moon. That would have been a good one.
Except, at the end of the story, you kind of got to tell everyone that you can't see
Yeah, but so there's a bill in Congress in the United States to stop Chinese purchases of farmland, which you would think, well, why are we allowing foreign countries to buy our farmland to begin with? But apparently they have, and
Absolutely.
they own a lot, and so that story will be published tomorrow. Working on that late tonight into the wee hours on headlineusa.com, and but it's all factual. you know I all my stories, if anybody wants to do fact checks on, I love the fact check thing too, because you read some of these like PolitiFact in these places, it's like, what are they talking about? It's like, I don't what facts are they checking? It's like, not the facts aren't even facts.
Yeah.
I might lose you because I'm at 1%,
Oh, shoot.
but I have a cable here, so see what happens. See, now I feel like I'm live streaming because that was
Yeah,
one thing.
that's
Like,
the battery quick.
the battery, yeah, it's the cold weather too, I guess, up there. Really, no, I'm okay.
How you doing in the car, by the way?
Well, I've got like a mini Wi-Fi. Well, so the today, for some reason, they were working on the lines, and so the internet to
Oh,
the house was down. But I have a mobile internet in my car, so I was able to do that.
you have a mobile internet in your car? Is that like a states thing, or is that just like a rich person thing? Like, what's we do not have that in Canada, as far as I know.
Y- Oh, you don't? Well, yeah, I only have it in 5 of my cars, and then the other ones I don't have it. But so
Oh man.
that's like a little mobile device that you can take with you. So it's a mobile Wi-Fi, and it's
Okay, because I thought that you would just be using data.
no, it's actually stronger than what you get on a phone.
Oh,
And for some reason my phone is well, I have an iPhone S, no, S4 or something. It's so I think I'm still on like dial-up on this, where you got to get into the internet by using a landline. So I don't have the state-of-the-art iPhone. So I think it's only like 3G, which isn't, you're not gonna, you can't really have videos on this.
yeah, that's right. Wow, that's interesting. You got like the highest tech Wi-Fi, but then the phone doesn't match.
Yeah, it's good for phone calls, but
Well, I
it's
like the low tech aspect of it, though. That's always good.
yeah, I like it because it's a little and it can, but I want to get another one just because that one's limited to some of the things you can do. But I actually had the first mobile phone, and this is way before your time, but I actually had the first mobile phone that was invented. It was a bag phone, and
A bag phone.
you'd carry it. It was a Motorola, and you carry it in this little briefcase, and you pick it up, and you had to dial, and
Holy, I see those in movies, but I didn't
yeah,
know you like anybody could just buy them.
yeah, one of the first ones. It it was quite like luxurious. It was like you'd call your friends and family and go, "Hey, guess where I am? I'm in the car." It's like what? Because
Oh,
before
because that
cell
was like a flex back then. You'd be like, "Oh my god, like,
yep,
how are you not in the house?" Yeah,
yep.
that's cool.
Yeah, because the only place there was a phone is in your living room or your dining room, or as Joe Biden says, in your kitchen, near your kitchen table was
Yeah.
was your phone. But yeah, so I've seen a few phones, and I'm not really well. I'm not that old, but I mean technology is come and gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say you look very young to be retired.
Well, I'm retired from being a captain because it you can only go up and down the same route so often without going completely insane. Um,
I guess so.
my heart goes out to bus drivers because
Same
it's
route every day,
the same
yeah.
route.
Yeah, I don't know about bus drivers, but
But so
yeah. Is there
yeah,
anything else you want to say as like a closing
um,
statement, Greg? Like shout outs to your media or anything like that? Social media maybe?
media. Well, the you can find me on I'm on Twitter. Chicago Rhetoric is at Chicago Rhetoric is my Twitter account. You can find my published articles, my news stories on headlineusa.com. And
Mm.
you can also search in the put my name in the search bar to pull up you can pull up most of the stories that were published there. Um, those are the two ways for now. I actually have a because I saw the fun you guys were having up there. I'm starting a YouTube channel eventually. I don't know what it's going to turn into or what it's going to be, but I figure it's always good to have it in case you got a live stream a news event going on.
Yes.
Like in
Exactly.
this case, if something was to happen, with the People's Convoy, I would just hook up with you, and you know, let you know what's going on down there with the People's Convoy here.
Yeah.
Because it takes some time to build up your YouTube status, but so that on YouTube, it's Headline USA until I get copyrighted for that. But it
No, no, you won't get copyrighted for names. I don't believe.
yeah. So I could say Coca-Cola channel.
I think you could.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because for my name, the Red Prince, there's so many different people who have that name already. It's just that I'm the one that has the most subscribers with that name. That's why when you search it
Oh,
up, I'm the first person who comes up. But there are like massive like amounts. I think there's like 150 or something people with the same channel name. So
oh really?
uh,
Wow. That's
yeah, it's a little ridiculous. But yeah, I was just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna get more subscribers than all of them, and then yeah, I'm gonna be popping up. And we just lost Greg. Okay, I'm gonna text him. I think his battery died. Oh. Okay, guys. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap this up at some point. I know I missed so many comments here. I was trying not to laugh when somebody commented about Sally, about how I should interview her, and I. So, does anyone know Sally personally? I mean, for any of the 59, for the whopping 59 people in the chat, I really don't think so. But if anyone does, I would love to interview her. Fat Steven Seagal is also in the chat. He changed his thumbnail. That's awesome. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. So, tomorrow at 12 noon, I'm going to be having Dana Lee on the channel. So I'm not entirely sure if he's still going to commit to that. I haven't heard from him in a couple of days, but I will confirm that tonight. And yeah, guys. So if you want to, if you guys want to see that, definitely let me know in the comments, and I will keep you posted on that. Also, what I'm most likely going to do is actually, yeah, I have Steven Seagal on also tomorrow, I believe at 3 p.m. And then I'll basically just fill in the gaps, having anybody who basically wants to come on, and ask me whatever questions they want. So, anyways, it's a little jumbled right now, so I do apologize for that. But tomorrow we're gonna have a more concise plan, and I will post about that if need be, and yeah, we'll go about it that way. So yeah, guys, Dana Lee at 12 noon tomorrow, guys. I will be live, so stay tuned for that. And as always, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.